Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Recha Kudash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Jeremiah, the 31st chapter, which sort of continues on from the 30th chapter, as the Lord continues to speak on to Jeremiah, right? The motive or the plans that he has in terms of the blessings that he will bring to Israel ultimately in the latter days. So this is Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 1. At the same time, saith the Lord Yahweh, will I be the God of all the families of Israel, and they shall be my people. Right? So there will be that reuniting of the different tribes back under one nation, under the Most High, or under Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, the people which were left of the sword found grace in the wilderness. So basically, right, in line with what we had just been reading, those that would remain after the destruction, as it says, found grace in the wilderness, right, in the aftermath of it, right, they found grace. Even Israel, when I went to cause him to rest. So at the time when the Lord would bring the rest to Israel, okay, and we know that those that would be left were the remnant. The Lord Yahweh hath appeared of old unto me, saying, Yea, I have loved thee with an everlasting love. Therefore with loving kindness have I drawn thee. Okay, meaning that the Lord has his love for Israel is continual, right, perpetual, without end. And with that, and in love has he drawn us onto him. When it says have I drawn thee, meaning he has drawn us onto him as his people. Again, I will build thee, and thou shalt be built, O Virgin of Israel. Thou shalt again be adorned with thy tabrets, and shalt go forth in the dances of them that make merry. So likening Israel onto this like young virgin woman who would be restored, all right, and be beautified and honored again, you know, with the different adornings, okay, and then going forth, as it says, in the dancing, basically to rejoice, which in the manifestation, this would be like the nation itself, right, being brought back to our land, you know, and back to the splendor, the joy, the glory that we had before. The Lord will basically bless us with that. So this is like metaphorical speak concerning Israel, because Israel is not an actual woman. Thou shalt yet plant vines upon the mountains of Samaria. See, so we're gonna be able again to be able to plant vines, you know, and other trees and plants, to be able to reap the crops and the benefits, as it mentions, upon the mountains of Samaria. And this wasn't, you know, since the northern kingdom were taken out of their land, you know, this didn't happen, right? Because ultimately, southern kingdom got taken out. Yeah, they got brought back in X, Y, and Z, but that place was it was destroyed, and then you had heathens imported into that land. So Israel having their land back, having their own vineyards and all of those things, that's something that's going to happen when the Lord redeems us and takes us back to the land. The planters shall plant and shall eat them as common things. So it's going to be common. It's going to be normal for you to have your own, you know, farm or field where you can plant and reap and enjoy the benefits of your labor. For there shall be a day that the watchmen upon the Mount Ephraim shall cry, Arise ye, let us go up to Zion, unto the Lord Yahweh our God. Meaning there's going to come a time, right, as it says, where the watchmen of Ephraim, as it mentioned here, are going to basically gather themselves up, right, with the people to go and serve the Lord. And the reason it's mentioned like this is because when you read even the prophets of old, Hosea and different prophets that prophesied to the northern kingdom, to Ephraim while they were in the land, they were wholly given up to what? Idols. But there's going to come a time when they're going to be cleaned up and repent of that and desire to go and serve Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai. For thus saith the Lord Yahweh, sing with gladness for Jacob, and shout among the chief of the nations. And the chief of the nations here is Israel. Publish ye, praise ye, make it public, and say, O Yahweh, save thy people, the remnant of Israel. Okay, so there's going to be a rejoicing, singing, for the deliverance of Israel. Behold, I will bring them from the north country, which is North America, and gather them from the coast of the earth, which are all the other places where Israel has been scattered. And with them, the blind and the lame, the woman with child, and her that travaileth with child together. So these would represent the elect that would be gathered from the four winds of the earth, right? From the four corners. Some, not just blind, right? Lame or different ailments that you may have. If you're of the elect, the Lord will deliver you. And at that point, you'll be changed, right? You'll be healed, so to speak. Okay, so as it says here, the woman with child, right? Because, you will have pregnant women as well, who the Lord might carry them through and protect them in the time of Jacob's trouble and deliver them, right? It says here, and her that travaileth with child together, a great company shall return thither. So having been gathered, we would be brought back, right? Gathered onto the Lord and brought back to our land, right? In due time. They shall come with weeping and with and with supplications will I lead them, because that's going to be a weeping in terms of the tears of joy, right? Of having been delivered, right? And praises to the Lord. I will cause them to walk by the rivers of waters in a straight way. And the straight way meaning that a way that is prepared for you, right? Like a path that is prepared for you, as it says, wherein they shall not stumble. So it's basically made, when the scriptures talk about making straight the crooked paths. When you make a way straight, that means you're preparing it for whoever it is that's going to be there. So the Lord is saying, I'm going to deliver you and have a way that's prepared for you, which is ultimately going to be in the kingdom, where you can walk freely and safely, without fear or without danger, i.e. not to stumble. For I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Hear the word of the Lord Yahweh, O ye nations, and declare it in the isles afar off, and say, He that scattered Israel will gather him, and keep him, as a shepherd doth his flock. So the Lord is going to eventually gather back his people, like a shepherd gathers his flock at the end of the day and returns them back to the pen, or the sheepfold. For the Lord Yahweh hath redeemed Jacob, and ransomed him from the hand of him that was stronger than he. And the hand of him that was stronger than us are the ones that oppress us. Primarily now is Esau, Edom. Because technically speaking, yeah, we may have the upper hand, right, in the spirit, but right now we don't physically have the might to overthrow or surpass Esau. That's why we need the Lord to come and deliver us. And rightfully he will, right? He has redeemed Jacob and ransomed him from the hand of him that was stronger than he. And in doing so, he will also destroy or bring down the him that was stronger than us and bring them under us. Therefore, they shall come and sing in the height of Zion, and shall flow together to the goodness of the Lord Yahweh. Right. So in the deliverance, in the peak, in the glory of Zion, right, you're gonna have us rejoicing in that. And obviously so, because having been delivered from captivity to witness the downfall of our enemies and also the glorification of of Israel, that's going to be a beautiful and joyous thing, right? I believe in Isaiah 62, it mentions, give him not rest until he makes Jerusalem a praise in the earth again, roughly paraphrasing, and shall flow together to the goodness of the Lord Yahweh, meaning they're going to come, Israel's going to come together, those that are delivered, to enjoy the blessings of the Lord, right? The goodness of the Lord, for wheat and for wine and for oil and for the young of the flock and of the herd. And their soul shall be watered, or shall be as a watered garden. Meaning we're gonna get the best, of everything, right? Of the wheat, the wine, the flocks, and the soul being as a watered garden, meaning you're gonna be satisfied, right? Like when you water a garden, it's satisfied, right? It's nourished. And they shall not sorrow any more at all. Then shall the virgin rejoice in the dance, both young men and old together. And this is painting a picture, right, of like joy within the land, where you have, like, as I mentioned, like a young woman, dancing, right? You have young men, all young men and old men, basically everybody rejoicing. For I will turn their mourning into joy, and I will comfort them and make them rejoice from their sorrow. And I will satiate the soul of the priest with fatness. Satiate is like saying to like drench, right? When you satiate something, like you fully envelop it in it, right? Like you drench it in it. And in this case, the Lord is saying, I'm going to drench or satiate the souls of the priests with fatness, right? Which is like not literal fat, but abundance. And my people shall be satisfied with my goodness, saith the Lord Yahweh. So we're going to have more than enough. And as it's mentioned in other prophecies, we're not going to want or lack anything. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, a voice was heard in Ramah. And verse 15 is going into a prophecy concerning the time of the New Testament, when this was fulfilled, when Herod gave the order to slay all the children while he was searching for Yahushua. So as it says, a voice was heard in Ramah, which was a region in Israel, I believe like somewhat north of Jerusalem, if I remember correctly. Lamentation and bitter weeping. Rahel weeping for her children, refused to be comforted for her children because they were what? They were killed. Now, it wasn't actually, like Rachel herself, but it was symbolizing Israel, right? Which, a part of the nation comes from Rachel. And so it was symbolizing, the mourning that would be going on within Israel for the slaying of the children. And now real quick, this is Matthew 2:16. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children. And you can read the whole second chapter for more context. Slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and in all the coasts thereof. So not just Bethlehem, but the regions around it too. In his mind, he was better safe than sorry. From 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremy the prophet, saying, in Ramah was there a voice heard, lamentation and weeping and great mourning. Rachel weeping for her children, and would not be comforted because they are not. So there you go. Verse 16, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, refrain thy voice from weeping, and thine eyes from tears, for thy work shall be rewarded. Right? So don't worry, you're not going to have to weep and cry and endure that anymore, for the Lord is going to reward you, saith the Lord Yahweh. And they shall come again from the land of the enemy, they being the remnant of Israel that are delivered, shall be delivered from the land of the enemy and return back to the land that was given to us. And there is hope in thine end, saith the Lord Yahweh, that thy children shall come again to their own border. See, so there is hope, even though we're not in our land now, right? And we're still subject under the hands of our enemies. There is hope because the Lord is going to overturn that and return us back to our own land. I have surely heard Ephraim bemoaning himself thus. So basically the Lord now, here the Lord is, this is like almost the voice of those at the end, right, that have turned back onto the Lord. So as it says, I have surely heard Ephraim bemoaning or lamenting himself thus, and saying, thou hast chastised me, and I was chastised, as a bullock unaccustomed to the yoke, right? So you disciplined me very harshly, and I was disciplined, right? As a bullock, like an untrained bullock. When you first put that yoke on it, it's like trying to break a horse in, right? It's not used to that. And so it's gonna, probably like try to resist, jump around, not go in the way you try to get it to go in. And then you might need to whip it or poke it with the goad, a couple times to get it to understand that this is what you got to do, and that's how the Lord likened Ephraim to being, right? Turn thou me, once again, from the perspective of Ephraim, turn thou me, and I shall be turned, for thou art the Lord Yahweh my God. So this is, once again, from the perspective of Ephraim, right, which is symbolic of the northern kingdom, but also the remnant, those that would in the latter times turn back to the Lord. They would have this attitude or this mindset. Surely after that I was turned, I repented, and after that I was instructed. So after I was turned, after the Lord instructed me, I repented, right? And after I was instructed, I smote upon my thigh. I was ashamed, yea, even confounded, because I did bear the reproach of my youth. So having, being woken up and come to the realization of the idolatry and the wickedness that you used to do, it was a shameful thing, but a cause for repentance. So reading this in the NLT, right? I turned away from God, but then I was sorry. I kicked myself for my stupidity. I was thoroughly ashamed of all that I did, or all I did in my younger days, right? And that's going to be the sentiment, having been, having been brought back to your right mind, right? And being delivered, looking back and realizing, damn, and acknowledging like, yo, this is like how we used to live, and going against Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai. Verse 20, is Ephraim my dear son? Is he a pleasant child? This is rhetorical questions. You can even put in there not, right? Is not Ephraim my dear son? Is not he a pleasant child? For since I spake against him, meaning since the Lord pronounced judgment against him, I do earnestly remember him still. And this goes to show you like the characteristic of a father, right? And how loving the Lord is to his people. I do earnestly still remember him. Therefore my bowels are troubled for him. I will surely have mercy upon him, saith the Lord. So it's like you have a child, right? A bad child, they're doing bad, maybe they're like an adolescent, and then they get out of hand, you discipline them, and then they just like leave. They just leave the house. And then now it's getting dark. You may have been angry at first, right? But now as it says, your bowels are troubled for him. You're concerned, you're worried, you're restless, because at the end of the day, that's still your child, right? And you still love them. And the Lord is sort of speaking in a similar manner concerning Ephraim, right? And saying here, as a result, he's going to have mercy upon him, when it's all said and done. Set thee up waymarks, make thee high heaps, set thine heart toward the highway, even the way which thou wentest. Turn again, O Virgin of Israel, turn again to these thy cities. I'm going to pull this up just to make it easier to understand the Old English. Set up road signs, put up guideposts, mark well the path by which you came. Come back again, my virgin Israel, return to your towns here. So here the Lord is like calling out to Israel to return back, to the original path, the old paths, the days when you were obedient unto Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai. How long wilt thou go about, O backsliding daughter? And in verse 22 here, I'm going to go into it a bit because the wording and the meaning of it can be a bit tricky when you read it at first, especially when you look up like even commentaries or you look into the some of the words in here. So this is verse 22. How long wilt thou go about, O backsliding daughter? For the Lord Yahweh hath created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. So the Lord is basically saying, like, how long are you going to continue to, when it says go about, it's like let me go into the Hebrew over there, which is to turn about or turn away from, right? Chamak, right? To withdraw, turn around, turn away, right? Which is basically to not heed the Lord's authority or his instruction. So, and that's why the Lord called us a backsliding daughter. So how long are you going to continue to resist and come against the Lord? For the Lord Yahweh hath created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. So now let's go into the word compass. Here it says sabab. And it says here to turn about or around or aside, to go about, to surround, to encircle, right? And that's pretty much what it goes into, and to encompass. So when you actually try to make sense of it, and you look at what I did first is I looked at the what is this called here? The lexicon, right? And the use cases of it. And for Jeremiah 31, as we're reading here, see if I can find it. Yeah, to go around. It's a bit lower. Yeah, just bear with me while I look for this. All right, let me see if I can word search Jeremiah in here. Yeah, well, you know what? If I can't, here we go. So for Jeremiah 31 and 22, right, the way they have it here is a woman protects a man, right? When it says a woman shall compass a man, it says to the application and rendering of this passage. Now, the thing about that is that doesn't really make sense in terms of this verse here, right? Because when you look from the time the Lord said this up until now, the Lord saying he's going to create a new thing in the earth, meaning he's going to make something that is unusual become a norm, right? It's going to become a thing, and it's going to be looked at as like this hasn't always been the case. Now, since the time that this was mentioned, this was prophesied, or the Lord mentioned this up until now, and even going into the kingdom, there's no time period where women were protecting men. Okay, that's not a thing. It's always been the man protecting a woman. And even in the time of Jacob's trouble, it mentions a man being in hiding place, right? So that really wouldn't fit in here or make sense. Number two, if you were to look at the word compass as like to circle around in a literal sense, that would make even less sense, right? Women are not going around just physically in circles, right, around men. However, when you go into the meaning of the verse, or what the Lord is saying here, he's basically saying, just as you turn away, right, and refused the leadership and the authority and the instruction of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, just as we did that as a nation, the Lord would have it to where our women, or women in general, would go around. When it says to encompass or compass a man, it means to bypass, okay, or to go around. It doesn't have to be a full 360, but to just go around a man instead of going through the man, right? So say traditionally, right, in the ancient world, up until, before recent times, a woman was under the authority of her man. So it was what he says is what goes. If she wanted to do anything, or any decision, she had to go through him, through the man. Now, as they're introducing this, as they mentioned, this matriarchy or this feminism or what, so on and so forth, so-called women's liberation, they have normalized women going around a man. They've normalized women bypassing a man, i.e. disregarding what he has to say, not respecting his authority, not respecting him as the man, the provider, X, Y, and Z. And that's actually a new thing, because it wasn't so from the beginning. Okay, that's why the Lord said he was going to create a new thing. And it's mainly in this time that you see that happening. Okay, so just wanted to spend a few minutes on that verse, because I know that depending on, how you look into the word, it can be a bit confusing to make sense of it. But hopefully that was clear. Verse 23, thus saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, the God of Israel, as yet they shall use this speech in the land of Judah and in the cities thereof, when I shall bring again their captivity. So the Lord is saying here, at the point when I deliver them from captivity, the new saying that's going to be in the land will be, the Lord Yahweh bless thee, O habitation of justice and mountain of holiness. That's what Jerusalem and that's what Israel is going to be known as, the habitation of the Lord's justice and the mountain of holiness. And there shall dwell in Judah itself, and in all the cities thereof, together husbandmen, and they that go forth with flocks. So the land is going to be basically populated again, with the true inhabitants, right? The husbandmen being like the farmers, the those that go forth with the flocks being the shepherds. But it's sort of to symbolize, normalcy again, right? Of us being in our land and being able to enjoy being delivered and being the people of the Lord. For I have satiated the weary soul, right? The tired, worn out soul is now drenched in blessings, right? That's that satiated or satiation. And I have replenished every sorrowful soul. And how is the Lord going to do that? Through deliverance. Verse 26, upon this I awaked and beheld, and my sleep was sweet upon me, right? So upon hearing this, that joy, okay, when you have a really good dream, or you hear something really nice, or you're excited for something, and then you wake up and it's like, that was like the best sleep you've ever had in God knows how long. That's sort of the sentiment here in verse 26. Verse 27, behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that I will sow the house of Israel and the house of Judah with the seed of man and with the seed of beast, i.e. the Lord is going to plant us in our land again. Just like when you sow a seed in the earth and then it springs forth with trees and fruits and then so on and so forth, the Lord is going to plant us in our land and we're going to populate. And it shall come to pass that like as I have watched over them to pluck up and to break down and to throw down and to destroy and to afflict, so will I watch over them to build and to plant, saith the Lord Yahweh. So it's going to be the reverse. The Lord is going to put his energy into delivering us, into blessing us, into establishing us, as opposed to bringing destruction and calamity upon us for our sins. In those days they shall say no more, the fathers have eaten a sour grape, and the children's teeth are set on edge. So no more, and this is also in Ezekiel, is the saying going to be that like the fathers eating sour grapes. When you eat a sour grape and your teeth are on edge, it's like jagged teeth, like when you're like grinding your teeth together and it's a weird feeling. But it's symbolizing the fathers sowing or taking the action, but the children or the descendants or those that come after paying the price. And the Lord is saying here, that's going to be no more. Like nobody's going to have occasion to say that anymore. But everyone shall die for his own iniquity. So you're going to bear the price of your own actions. Every man that eateth the sour grape, his teeth shall be set on edge. So if you take the action, you do the crime, you pay the time. Right? Verse 31, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. So that's when you read in the book of Exodus, the covenant the Lord made with us in the wilderness. He's saying this is going to be a different kind of covenant, right? Which my covenant they break, because that covenant, we broke that. Although I was an husband unto them, saith the Lord. So even though I treated them as an husband, and loved them like an husband would his wife, they still broke my covenant and behaved as an adulterous wife. But this time, right, this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord Yahweh. I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. So instead of the law being written on tablets or parchment and you referencing it, the Lord is going to put it in our minds. So we will not go off anymore. We will be made perfect, right? We'll follow it just as you instinctively breathe. Nobody tells you or teaches you how to breathe. Similarly, nobody's going to have to teach us how to keep the laws of the Lord. We'll do it naturally. That's what that means. Verse 34, and they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, and this is amongst Israel, that is, saying, know the Lord Yahweh, for they shall all know me, from the least of them on to the greatest of them. So it's going to be instinctively, it's going to be like etched in your DNA to know and serve the Lord, right? Not having to be taught the ways of the Lord like we have to do now. Saith the Lord, for I will forgive their iniquity and I will remember their sin no more. And that's the mercy the Lord is going to have on us. And this is to come very soon. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon. The ordinances of the moon are the properties, right? Like how the moon, waxes and wanes and causes its light to shine. And of the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. The Lord Yahweh of hosts is his name. So, thus saith the Lord, right? The Lord that, you read it here, it is the Lord who provides the sun to light the day and the moon and the stars to light the night, and who stirs the sea into roaring waves. His name is the Lord of heaven's armies, and this is what he says. If those ordinances depart from before me, saith the Lord Yahweh. So in other words, if the laws of nature were to stop, saith the Lord, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. That's when the Lord would do away with us. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, if heaven above can be measured, and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath. So if you can measure the heavens, the stars, the elements, all of those things, and you can search out everything in the ocean and the earth beneath, I will also cast off the seed of Israel for all that they have done. That's when I'm gonna basically forsake Israel for their iniquities and never return back to them. But in other words, the Lord is saying that will never happen, because nobody can ever accomplish the prerequisite. Saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that the city shall be built to the Lord Yahweh from the tower of Hananeel onto the gate of the corner. Now these are like actual locations in Israel at the time. Like, I always give the example today, you might refer to somebody and say, oh, when you go downtown, right, or Times Square or Fifth Ave, it makes sense to us because we know that, because we live in this time. So back then, the Lord making reference to the Tower of Hananeel, right, onto the gate of the corner. These are actual like locations physically in the land that he is making reference to, right? And the measuring line shall yet go forth over against it upon the hill Gareb, and shall compass about Goath. And all this is the Lord saying that the city is going to be rebuilt again. A measuring line will be stretched out over the hill of Gareb and across Goa, and the whole valley of the dead bodies and of the ashes, and all the fields onto the brook Kidron, onto the corner of the horse gate toward the east, shall be holy unto the Lord Yahweh. It shall not be plucked up, nor thrown down any more forever. Now read this in the NLT as well. And the entire area, including the graveyard and ash dump in the valley, and all the fields out to the Kidron Valley on the east, as far as the horse gate, will be holy to the Lord Yahweh. The city will never again be captured or destroyed. And that's going to be a part of the blessing, right, that the Lord is going to bestow upon us by delivering us. So that brings us to the end of Jeremiah, the 31st chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha, Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.